artists through the homegrown resources, but that we can also use the online facilities that we have. Honorable Speaker, in fact, in my view, I think 2% is actually on the low side. We should actually have a higher percentage for this, because as I said when I began, it's that we do not have any more blue-collar jobs in this country. We are trying to encourage our young people to actually be employers, to be CEOs, so that they can also employ other people and use this mechanism of being artisans to be able to grow our economy. Honorable Speaker, as I finish, one honorable member did mention about the Gusii artisans who use soapstone. And this is one thing that is actually, unfortunately, dying in our spaces because it has not been significantly promoted. And therefore, as I take my seat, I'd just like to once again congratulate the Honorable John Kiari for bringing this motion, and I urge all of us to support it because this is the right way to go. Let us encourage ourselves and ensure that we buy Kenya and build Kenya. I thank you.
The Honorable Mishi Mboko, member for Likoni.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I want to congratulate Honorable Kiari for coming up with this motion. And Honorable Speaker, I just want to say from the beginning that there has been a significant increase in the number of Kenyan youth involved in the artisan industry. And this is an area where we can create a lot of employment. Honorable Speaker, this is the time where we need to shift the youth from being employees to being employers by creating their own industries, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when you talk about handcrafts, coming from Mombasa County, where we have a small industry by the Akamba community, and we call it Akamba Handcraft Industry. They have employed several Kenyans in that small industry, but they don't have financial opportunities where maybe they could strengthen that small industry so that they employ more Kenyans, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when you talk about painting, and you see our Kenyans, people do a lot of colorful artwork, they display our traditions, they display so many issues, and this is an area where if you put more funding, these people can create employment, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to agree that it is important that we can take 2% of the NGCDF funds so that we can give to our youth through trainings, because as members of parliament, we have created the TVET, the colleges whereby our youth can undertake several skills in terms of artisans. Madam Speaker, these people have experienced a lot of challenges. One of the challenges is globalization of products, where they encounter a lot of competitive in terms of pricing, because Kenya has also been one of the areas where other countries are dumping their products. Honorable Speaker, if you're not going to emphasize on the concept of buy Kenya and build Kenya, then we are not going to reduce the big burden of importation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to say that where I come from, there are several youth who have ventured in filming industry, but they don't have funding, Madam Speaker. And this is a problem. And because NGCDF, we don't cater for social programs, it becomes very difficult for us to promote them, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the other issue is lack of markets. We have come out with different products, but do we have markets? The answer is no. Even the local markets, as Kenyans, we need to start embracing our own products, which have been innovated by our own youth and our own Kenyans. That is the only way we can ensure this product, at least they have market, Madam Speaker. The other issue, Madam Speaker, we also need to have a protection in terms of copyright and patent right of our products. The kiondo, which is made by the Akamba community. Today, there are so many other communities innovating kiondo and maybe taking the responsibility or taking the patent right of having the kiondo. And yet the kiondo comes from the Akamba community. Madam Speaker, through artisan, this is also a way to ensure that our cultures are being upheld. The Maasai community with their bracelets, with their earrings, and so many other instruments and equipment, even the drums, Madam Speaker. These are all equipments which when we put more funds, maybe they can create employment and also they can also create income to our country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is an area where it can greatly reduce our import cost, which it has access to 2 billion right now, Madam Speaker. It is something, maybe we can find it is something small, but if we just think outside the box, Madam Speaker, then maybe even the Kenya Kwanza agenda of creating employment, this is an area where you need to put more funding. And there must be special funding, there must be special structures to ensure that this funding will trickle down to the grassroots level. Because right now in my constituent, for instance, I have the Susumilas, the Chikuzes, they are good musicians, but where are they? They don't have any fortune because they are not recognized, they don't have finances, so they are just there just singing during the campaigns time.
The Honorable Kasim Tandaza, member for Matuga constituency.
Asante sana Madam Speaker. Kwanza nichukue fursa hii kumshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu aliyetuwezesha sote kuwa hapa na watu wa Matuga kwa ujumla kwa kuturegesha tena kwa mara ya pili, wale ambao wamekuja mara ya pili. Nichukue fursa hii kupeana kongole kwa Mheshimiwa KJ. Na ile miswada ambayo huwa analeta hapa na mijadala ambayo huleta moja kwa moja inaashiria kwamba yeye atakuwa mbunge wa Dagoreti mpaka pale labda yeye mwenyewe atakapoona labda anataka kwenda sehemu zingine, kwa sababu huwa analeta mambo ambayo yanaweza kubadilisha nchi hii, yanaweza kubadilisha wananchi wetu wa Kenya ambao wana taaluma mbalimbali. Ningechukua pia fursa hii kumwelezea Bwana KJ mimi kama naibu mwenyekiti wa NGCDF. Saa hizi tunazungumzia hili swala kama mjadala, na ikiwa ni mjadala mara nyingi huwa unaishia hapa. Kwa hivyo natoa ombi kwake aweze kuchukua jambo hili na kulitengeneza mswada ambalo moja kwa moja nataka kuhakikishia Bwana KJ litakapokuja katika kamati ya NGCDF, na hakikisha tutalipatia kipaumbele kwa sababu ni jambo ambalo ni la muhimu na litaweza kubadilisha yale matatizo na tetesi ambazo tuko nazo katika constituency zetu. Nikiwa hapa saa hizi na kijana pale Kombani anaitwa Hassan Nur ambaye aliweza kunialika kwake nyumbani, na nilipofika akanionyesha vile anaweza kugeuza moshi na kufanya mwangaza wa taa. Moshi ule wa kawaida ambao huwa unatumika karibu majumba yote, kwa sababu sehemu zetu nyingi isipokuwa labda kwa KJ kwake ni mjini hakuna moshi, anatumia stima na gesi, lakini na imani wabunge wengi kule wanakotoka moshi unapatikana. Kijana huyu ana huo ujuzi, anageuza moshi na anawakisha taa kutoka ule moshi. Lakini mbali na kuona na kufurahia, na labda siku hiyo kama nilikuwa na chochote cha kumpa, labda akanunue sukari, nilimpatia. Hakuna jambo jingine zaidi ambalo ningeweza kumsaidia kama mbunge wa eneo hili, na najua taaluma kama hizi ziko kila mahali. Tukiangalia katika ile maeneo ya pwani, kuna taaluma ya kushona kofia zile ambazo huwa ziko ghali. Tunazungumzia kofia ambazo huuzwa kwa takriban 20,000, 25,000, na mara nyingi hushonwa na wakina mama. Saa hizi kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa kuweza kusaidiwa kiserikali na kimfumo, Asante. Nimeanzia na Madam Speaker, sasa naona ni Mr. Speaker saa sija tukaweza kutofautiana. Kwa hivyo Bwana Speaker, nadhani pia umeweza kuhifadhi muda wangu na kuniongezea dakika 6 zaidi kwa kule kusimama wakati sikuweza kuzungumza. Katika zile taaluma ambazo tuko nazo katika sehemu mbalimbali za nchi, nilikuwa nazungumzia taaluma ya hasa maeneo ya pwani na kule kwangu eneo bunge la Matuga. Wale ambao wana ujuzi wa kushona kofia kama ile ambao mheshimiwa amevaa pale mbele. Kofia ile takriban huo unaenda ikiwa ni kwa urahisi ni shilingi 20,000. Kwa sababu sio rahisi kutengeneza kushona kofia kama ile. Lakini kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa mfumo wa kiserikali wa kuona kwamba taaluma kama ile inaweza kuzalisha kwa wingi, saa hizi tuna kofia kama zile ambazo zinatoka China. Ukiziangalia huwezi kuona tofauti baina ya kofia ile ambayo imeshonwa na watu wetu hapa na ile ambayo imetoka China. Na kwa sababu wao wameweza kusimamiwa na serikali na mashirika yao, zinakuja zikiwa ziko rahisi, ukiziangalia unaziona ziko sawa, lakini inauzwa shilingi 5,000, shilingi 6,000. Hii inamaanisha kwamba yule Mkenya ambaye ana taaluma kama ile angekuwa amesaidiwa na yeye angekuwa anaweza kuzalisha na kuuza nchi mbalimbali na kuleta fedha kwake na hata kwa nchi nzima, kwa sababu zitakuwa zinauzwa katika nchi za kigeni. Tumewacha taaluma kama hizo zinatumiwa na Wachina, wanaturegeshea sisi, wanazalisha kazi kwao, sisi wetu wanakosa kazi. Kwa hivyo katika mswada huu ni muhimu kwamba uweze kubadilishwa, uwe sheria na kuwe na kusimamizi kamili ya kuona kwamba ni vipi vijana wetu wanaweza kutumia taaluma zao. Kwa sababu kama waliotangulia kusema, utakuta kwamba mara nyingi watu wanakuja kwa wabunge na inabidi wafanye hivyo, kwa sababu ukiangalia haya mashirika mengine, hata tukizungumzia Uwezo Fund, Women Fund, Youth Fund, hizi ni fund ambazo zinabaki maofisini. Watu wengi kule vijijini hawazifahamu, hawana njia ya kuweza kujua fund kama hizi. Lakini wakati wowote ambayo fund huwa ina mbunge, kwa sababu mbunge mwenyewe ndio huwa anatembea karibu kila mahali, basi moja kwa moja huwa inanufaisha watu wengi na nufaisha watu wengi, na moja kwa moja inapata watu wale ambao wanahusika zaidi. Kwa sababu ya muda, ningetaka kutoa kongole na kusema na uunga mkono mswada huu na uweze kuwa sheria ili uweze kunufaisha nchi nzima kwa ujumla. Asante Bwana Spika.
Okay, thank you so much. Honorable members, I'm reliably informed that there are those who had logged in before the system went off, and the system went off with them. And there are those who now appear as number 1 from the list I have. And as you know, normally I would want to follow the list the way it is. But today I'll have an exception. I will be able to juggle between those who are logged in and were logged off before the system went off, and those who are here. Because I've given Paul Murigi, an honorable member for Gembe South, I'll allow him this opportunity. Then he'll be followed by the Honorable Nyekal. Please don't carry your hand up. I've said I've been given a list of those who had logged in earlier. I will try to juggle between the two lists. Coming here won't help anybody.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I pleased to support this motion, motion which is brought in this house by Honorable KJ. Mr. Speaker, this is the right time now to start focusing on the young people. Mr. Speaker, as you know, The largest population of this country, over 68 to 75%, consists of the young people, Mr. Speaker, and those are the people who are in their hand of jobs, Mr. Speaker. But we rarely provide jobs to them, Mr. Speaker, because in this country, most of the companies, Mr. Speaker, are saturated, Mr. Speaker. So there are no jobs there. So, Mr. Speaker, when this motion proposes that we give at least 2% to the young people, it is a good idea, Mr. Speaker, which all of us we are supposed to support and make all our effort, Mr. Speaker, in ensuring that we pass this motion, Mr. Speaker. Because especially in my constituencies, Mr. Speaker, I have very many young people who are talented, Mr. Speaker. Some of them are artists, others are artisans, Mr. Speaker, and even some, Mr. Speaker, normally do the artworks, but the tools to do that job, Mr. Speaker, they do not have. But if we provide this fund in NGCDF, Mr. Speaker, we will be in a right position, Mr. Speaker, of funding these groups of the young people to make sure, Mr. Speaker, that they have their own tools, Mr. Speaker, so that they can be able to do their work quite easily, Mr. Speaker. Also, Mr. Speaker, as we are empowering the young people, we must, as the government or as the legislatures, we must empower them, Mr. Speaker, through providing the provisions, Mr. Speaker, which will encourage them to sell their product within this country and even exporting them, Mr. Speaker. As we all know, we normally import a lot of things from outside this country, the things which we have young people who have the capacity, Mr. Speaker, of providing or even manufacturing them, Mr. Speaker. So it is the right time, Mr. Speaker, we support this motion, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that our young people, Mr. Speaker, are catered for and they are empowered, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, during our concluded or our just concluded election, Mr. Speaker, we had many young people who are campaigning for us, Mr. Speaker, and we promise them that, Mr. Speaker, we will empower them. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the future of our young people, Mr. Speaker, is bright because we have the NGCDF fund, Mr. Speaker, and we are ready to give the 2% to empower them, Mr. Speaker, so that they can better their lives. With that, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for retrieving the lost list and giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion and congratulate the Honorable Mheshimiwa who has brought it on. I do so, Mr. Speaker, because this motion addresses one of our greatest socioeconomic challenges in this country, the unemployment amongst the youth. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, that same challenge is actually our greatest potential, because without addressing the youth unemployment, without getting the youth actively involved in job creation and production, this nation cannot go very far. Unfortunately, again, Mr. Speaker, our education system in the past has completely ignored this area and directed our young people towards white-collar jobs. Every young person leaves the university or college to look for a job, not to create a job. Innovation Self-employment, job creation has been totally ignored in our education system. So, Speaker, I know, and you are aware, that in the past, we had mid-level colleges. All of them were actually closed and turned into universities, and mainly on humanities that are easy to set up. And that we lost that opportunity to equip our young people with technical knowledge and skills. We hope the task force that has been put up in the Ministry of Education will address this matter. Mr. Speaker, I support this motion because it's appropriate that now we use what we have to address the shortcomings that we had before, to empower national government, CDF, National Government Constituency Development Fund, Uwezo Fund, and Youth Fund to support young people in this area is actually a great innovation. Once again, I congratulate Honorable Kiarie. So that we can apply this in supporting technical training, skill development, as well as providing technology and tools. Fortunately, Mr. Speaker, as it is now with the NGCDF, we can actually give bursaries to people in TVETs. And so the only area that we really must address now is after they have got these skills, are they able to get the wherewithal to actually start, even in a small way, their own businesses, the things they can do. And I support that we must do this. Uwezo and Youth Fund are designed for groups. My experience in my constituency is that it is very difficult to organize people, not only the youth, in groups, because the motivation, the ambition is never within a group. It is within an individual. And in fact, individuals that seek to actually move forward are quite often discouraged by the group dynamics. So I think if we can get NGCDF and we can change the regulations so that we give that 2%, and later on actually seek more in the budget, I think that will go a long way. This will actually initiate self-employment. And Mr. Speaker, nobody will ever create a job for himself without creating a job for somebody else. Anybody who is self-employed, more often than not, will employ other people. And when people do this, even somebody who is just making a fence has to get somebody to do them. Even somebody who is creating an art has to get somebody to do them. And often, if now they are supported properly, it has a huge multiplier effect. When they start to generate these businesses, they actually, supply chains come in and support that. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this motion, and it is good that the motion is asking that we resolve. And if it is not implemented, I hope Honorable Kiarie will go to the implementation committee, will follow the CDF committee so that it is actually implemented. It's something support, and we will even look for more funds to support this area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Yusuf Adan of Mandera West.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I've really waited this morning. I stand to support this motion by Honorable J. Carrier. It is very timely indeed. This is a country where youth are majority and unemployment is a very serious level. Unemployment levels are at serious levels, and it is very dangerous to continue having unemployed youth in this country from even security point of view. Artisans are where jobs are easily available. As soon as they get the skills required and the tools required, jobs are always there. And these jobs are in every country. Artisans are very important in our economy. They produce wares that are affordable, that are durable, and that are user-friendly all over. And by developing these artisans, they only need two things. The first thing they need is, of course, support in terms of finance, which Honorable J.K. has shown up as 2% of the CDF, but the other source of fund can be the Hustler Fund, which His Excellency the President is going to launch on the 1st of December. I think that is where it is very appropriate, and that is where we can get adequate funding for artisans. Nobody is more hustler than artisans themselves. So when we talk of Hustler Fund and we talk of artisans, then the majority of that money, the Hustler Fund, I think maybe 30% of the Hustler Fund or even 50% of the Hustler Fund should go in supporting the artisans. And these artisans are so important in our day-to-day life that a lot of raw materials that we produce in this country today go to waste because our artisans are not supported, our artisans are not given the skills required, our artisans do not have the necessary tools they need to work with. For example, if I take an example as the constituency where I come from, Mandera West, in our slaughterhouses, we slaughter thousands of goats and cattle, sheep, camels every morning for meat supply of the town. Unfortunately, all the leathers, all the hides and skins are thrown away. This is because our artisans who used to produce leather belts, leather shoes, leather masalas are no longer able to produce because their skills do not develop, they do not have the necessary tools that are required. Imagine us getting toothpick, importing toothpick from China, when we have a lot of twigs around and when we have our artisans, just because we have not done the right fits. Hence, I stand here to support this motion, and hopefully it is going to become a bill, it's going to become a law, and it will be implemented to the latter. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This chance goes to the Honorable Katai Bissau, wherever he is. You can speak from where you are. I'll give you the mic from wherever you are. There's a mic coming to you. It's a mic coming to you, just relax.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. And on the onset, I want to thank Mheshimiwa Kiharie for bringing up this motion. This motion is very, very important because in most situations, we've not given opportunities to the great minds and great innovators we have in this country. So to me, Mr. Speaker, sir, supporting this motion on the onset, I would wish that first of all, we realize that when we're talking about artisans, we look at the software component, which are musicians, an example, actors, etc., but at the same time also look at the hardware component, so that once this fund has been approved, there are no challenges to say that, in terms of definition of the beneficiaries. So we would like that actually these funds are availed. And in fact, looking at the figures, 2% is really on the lower side. But I believe that from the other creative funds that are coming up, like the Hustler Fund, maybe we'll be looking at something like 10% or not even 15% being sort of earmarked for this particular industry. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I support this motion. But even as I support this motion, I would wish that, you know, we give it the priority it requires, because in most cases, looking at the records, there are some of very great motions like this particular one have come in this house, and they've just sort of, you know, pushed back on the shelves. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I support this motion, but clearly it should cover both the soft component, which is actually musicians and actors, but also the ones that also use their hands to come up with them creative. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, even as we pass this motion as the lawmakers, we must walk the talk. Because in most cases, you find that we have that preference of imported goods that are made outside our jurisdiction. So we're talking about even the clothing. We need to focus on clothing that are made locally. If, you know, the utensils that are made locally, like an example from Carlworks. So we really need to walk the talk as lawmakers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. The Honorable Mboni Mwauka of Kitui Rural, if he's in the house. Is he in? Then I'll give the chance to the Honorable Danson Mashako of Wundanyi.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa nafasi ya kuunga mkono mswada ulioletwa na ndugu yangu, rafiki yangu Mheshimiwa Kiarie, kuwa basi wasanii wetu tuweze kuangalia haswa masuala ya kuwapa fedha ya kufanya ama ya kukuza vipawa vyao. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu umekuja kwa wakati unaofaa. Unajua Kenya tuko na shida kubwa ya ukosefu wa kazi, ambapo vijana wengi wako kule nje, wengi wameenda shule, wamesoma vizuri, lakini wamekosa kupata ajira. Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi wao wana talanta tofauti ambazo wangeshikwa mkono ama wangeweza kufadhiliwa, basi tungekuwa tumepunguza ukosefu wa kazi katika nafasi ama katika sehemu kubwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini pia ijulikane kwamba Mheshimiwa John Kiarie ambaye ameleta mswada huu, alipokuwa chuo kikuu alikuwa mbunifu sana na mambo haya ya usanii. Nakumbuka alikuwa na kikundi wanakiita Ridiculous. Tukiwa naye pale Kenyatta University, Mheshimiwa Spika, tulikuwa tuna muenzi sana. Na alipokuja bunge la kitaifa, nimeona kuwa basi kwa kweli kumbe wasanii wakienda katika viwango vya utunzi wa sheria na kile inaitwa policy formulation, Mheshimiwa Spika, basi mambo kama haya ama bunge la kitaifa limepata mtu mzuri wa kusaidia kuangazia sanaa na vijana wetu ambao kuna vipawa. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, pia niseme kwamba unajua Mwenyezi Mungu ndiye aliyekuwa msanii wa kwanza. Manake ubunifu wote ambao tunaufanya leo, utakuta kwamba Mwenyezi Mungu ndiye aliyekuwa the first artist, wanasema kwa kimombo. Kuumba dunia, kuumba wanadamu, kuumba vyote viliomo tunavyoviona na tusivyoviona, Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa ni sanaa ya juu sana Mwenyezi Mungu alifanya.